If you're trying to grow a SaaS company and you're tired of explaining to your AI over and over again, what you sell and what you're working on, and you're ready to kick past the chatbot era and get into more agentic AI, so you're ready for something like Claude Cowork, this is the video for you, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to use a plugin called Growth OS. And that plugin plugs straight into your Claude Cowork and then helps you build out a folder that looks like this, that contains a document that helps the AI understand your brand voice. It's always writing in your brand voice when it's writing emails and ads and landing pages. It builds a business blueprint, which contains a customer journey that gets built out, it understands your offer. You see the offers.md file here. That offer file explains what you sell, what the features are, all of that stuff. And then the persona document that understands who you're selling to. And it builds towards the end a whole bunch of growth ideas. The ideas that it will build are be fantastic because it's taking into account what you sell, who you sell to, what your business is, how long it's been around. It actually runs you through an interview and you answer questions and you give it your website. And it goes and crawls and creates this folder structure, which I have found to be ideal for running a software company. So the last thing it does is build out this workflows folder and starts to get you organized around the work that you're doing. You can see that these are several campaigns that we've been working on inside of this folder for this software company, which happens to be a client of mine called Zipify. So what you're going to be doing is using Claude Cowork to grow the business, and you will install this plugin to make it super easy to get up and running very quickly and start growing that business. Let's get started. All right, here we go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into this customize area and we're going to install a plugin. If you haven't been in here, you should know that this is the place that you go when you're going to install personal plugins. So we're going to go grab the plugin. And to do that, you'll go over to the Click website. So let's go to the Click, just go to the click.ai and click on plugins. And you're going to go to the Growth OS Quick Start and you're going to go into the SaaS companies section. And that'll open up this Growth OS for SaaS marketing plugin. And you can see there's a plugin here. And you'll need to opt in here. So I'm going to just create an email address here and join and download. And that's going to push that plugin into your downloads folder. And now go back into Claude Cowork and click on personal plugins, customize, and then plus here, we're going to upload a plugin and we can go and browse for that file or drag it in. And I'm going to go back into my downloads and you see I've downloaded this a few times because I've been building and testing this plugin. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up and upload that. Now it's asking me to replace the plugin, which I'm going to say, go ahead and replace. For you, it will just install a brand new version. Now I have the Growth OS Quick Start, and this is what's going to allow us to go ahead and install our SaaS company as inside of Claude Cowork. So the next step is to go over here and anywhere on your hard drive, go ahead and create a folder. Just an empty folder that you're going to let Claude be in charge of, basically. So we're going to rename this Zipify. So I'm going to do a demonstration for a company that's actually a client of mine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to root down into that folder. So I'm going to go down in here, choose a folder, and I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to choose that Zipify folder. Now it's asking me if I'm okay with Claude going ahead and making changes and doing different things inside of this folder. And I'm going to say allow. And now you can see I'm rooted down into that Zipify folder. So that's going to be the client that we're going to build this Growth OS for. And they're an awesome company. They sell Shopify apps and different add-ons for Shopify, and they're called Zipify. So we're going to build this Growth OS out for Zipify here in Claude Cowork. All right. So all we need to do now is say run the quick start, and it's going to start running that quick start. And while Claude does its work, I'm going to start taking you on a little tour of Claude Cowork in case you haven't played with it at all yet. And I'll start up here with new task. So new tasks, the way that Claude Cowork works is not through threads or chats, but instead they call them tasks. Anytime you want to start something new that you're working on, you'll just hit that plus and you'll say new task. And when you do, you'll have to select a folder and it'll automatically select the last folder you were in. But if you wanted to work in a different folder for some reason, you would select a different folder. But you want to always make sure that you're rooted down into a folder. And after you set up this Growth OS quick start here, most of the time you're going to want to work in the folder that you installed this Growth OS in because it's going to be structured properly for business growth for a SaaS company. But you can see that I've got the quick start. This task is still running down here and it says, let me check if there's an existing setup. And this is how Growth OS works. This is a little plugin. Welcome to Growth OS. Here's what we're doing. The whole thing takes about 20 minutes. Let's jump in. What kind of business do you run? So we're going to tell it that we run a SaaS software company. So I'm going to just say SaaS software, and we're going to move forward from there. Now, other things, you could, of course, search your tasks and threads and so forth is another feature here. The SaaS it is. Now let me grab the basics. What's the name of your business? And do you have a website URL? So I'm going to say Zipify, and then I'm just going to grab the Zipify.com URL and let Zipify, let it go crawl Zipify. So one of the things that this plugin does is it's going to go crawl your website and look for as much context as possible. So you don't have to copy and paste information in there. So it's going to come back with quite a bit of information about Zipify by fetching that URL and going out and looking at the site. So while it's doing that, I'll cover this scheduled section. So they just added this as the time I'm shooting this video. They added this about, 2 weeks ago. And the scheduled is pretty cool. You can tell, all you have to do is tell Claude, like, when it's doing something that you want it to do and you want it to do it daily or weekly or monthly or something like that, you can just tell it to schedule that to run. And it essentially runs a prompt or a skill. We'll talk about skills as we go along today, but it'll run a skill on a schedule for you, which is really nice. Great stuff. Here's what I'm picking up from the site. Zipify builds Shopify apps, one-click upsell, Zipify Pages, ShopRank AI, and PostProfit that help e-commerce store owners increase revenue through upsells, landing pages, and post-purchase flows. And I know this is all correct. And Ezra is the founder and he's awesome. And that's exactly where he's incorporated there. And a couple of quick questions. What's your role at Zipify? I'm just going to say I am a consultant, but I am building this for them to use Claude Cowork to grow the business. Claude is extremely intelligent, but you can talk to it. Just tell it what you want. But there is a flow to this Growth OS quick start. It's like you're setting this up on Zipify's behalf. I'll build the workspace with Ezra as the founder. Let me fill in what I already know. It starts to immediately. Now, I want you to take a look inside this folder. There is nothing in this folder right now. It's completely empty. But because we're rooted down in here, it's going to start to build your structure inside of here. And this is the structure that, I've tested a lot of different layouts and structures for how I want the folders and documents and the different things that I want inside of a folder to run the marketing for a business. And this is by far the best way that I've tested. That's why I built it in here as a plugin. It says the mission centers on helping e-com entrepreneurs grow revenue. That sounds right. Okay, what can you fill in or correct? How big is the Zipify team? So I'm going to say 20-person team, roughly. Main marketing channels. They do a lot of email. They do a lot of Facebook ads. They have an email list. I'm just gonna stop there, but you would put in whatever your main marketing channels are. I'll skip on the mission part. Now remember that none of what you're doing here is permanent. In fact, it's very unpermanent. You're going to be your AI space. This folder here is going to evolve as you continue to work. And as Claude learns more about what you're doing, it'll start to write more information into your folder and get better and better at helping you grow your SaaS companies. Any specific mission or values? Let's skip that. Rough scale, subscriber count, number of paying customers. I'm going to just say, I don't know the answer to this, but I'm just going to say 3,000 paying customers. It's probably way more than that. They've been around a long time. And I'm going to say 75,000 email addresses. If you don't have any of these details, just skip it, right? Skip it for now. You can go get the information later, or you can take your time and work through that plugin. Whatever you decide to do is fine because it's not permanent. So you can see that it's wrapping up phase one, which is discovery. And that's the first phase of the Growth OS plugin. And now it's wanting me to move on. It's asking me to confirm all of this stuff. Do you have any documents you'd like me to read? Marketing materials, pitch decks, emails, sales pages. Now, this is a good place to pause for a second. And, you could do this later, but the quick start is a good time to go grab anything you have. You can take screenshots of stuff. You can drop PDFs in there. You can copy and paste information in, but whatever you put in there, the more you put in there, the AI is going to start to organize all of that context and get better and better at marketing your business. Not a bad idea to pause right here and start to just dump as much information as possible. You could link to things like, let's say you have a write up in Hacker News or something, or an interview with the founder, any kind of context that you want to feed in here. You can, keep feeding it until you're like, okay, I feel like that's good. And you'll watch it start to organize all of that stuff over here. But I'm going to go ahead and say, let's move on for now. I'll give you some more later. And now it's going to move into phase two, which is going to be mapping Zipify's offers. Really important information for the AI to start. Now you can see it's already starting to build out your Growth OS in here. It's building what I call the core folder. Now the core folder will start to contain, as we move through the setup process here, it's going to start to contain very core information to the business and the marketing of the business. Your persona documents, your offer documents, your brand voice, and it's going to build all of this out for you. And then you can go in and edit it if you want, or you can tell the AI to edit it, or you can just accept and keep what it builds for you. But this is going to make your AI really work well, this core file. It says from the website, what you sell is one-click upsell, which is their biggest seller, Zipify Pages, Zipify Plus, and this is a new product, ShopRank AI, and PostProfit. Is this the full product lineup? And that's correct. I'm going to say yes. And what we're going to see it do is it's going to eventually start to build out the detailed documents about what we sell. And it'll build that out right here inside of our Zipify folder. Now, anytime that I root down into this folder and I, click new task and root down into this folder, my AI is going to have access to all this information. And that is what makes the AI work so well. You can see it's starting to mess around inside of this folder here. Now, while it looks like Zipify Plus is a Shopify Plus tier, it went back on the site for a second there to just capture everything. I say, yep, sounds good. You can see that I have this scheduled task that just ran right before I jumped on to do this video. So just coming back to scheduled tasks, it's a really powerful feature here inside of Claude Cowork that you can create workflows and prompts and things. And once you get something the way that you want it, you just tell it to schedule it if you want it to do it daily or monthly. We go back into this customized folder while it's writing this offer document. You can see that it actually, I'll get to this panel in a second, but if we go back into our folder, you're going to see that it's going to create this offer document and add it into our folder. So we're literally building documents that live on our computer and that the AI has access to edit, move, organize. Even it'll ask you, but it could even delete those files if it thinks it doesn't need those anymore. So if I open this file up, you can see here that this is just a tool that I use called One Markdown, but you could open this file in a text document or a text reader as well. Like I'm on a Mac, but like text edit here. But you can see here that it created a pretty detailed set of information about what we sell. And that is going to make our AI much, much more useful. So let's see what it's asking me now. It says offer doc saved. Phase 3 is the ideal customer persona. This is the second document that we're going to create in there is the offer document and then the persona document. And there is no more important document than that persona document. This document is going to really take your AI up a notch. So from what I can see, it looks like Shopify store owners running D2C brands. Now, if you have a persona document or any documentation around your customers, maybe you have multiple persona documents, just dump that stuff in here. Get it in here in any way you can. Copy and paste it, take screenshots, upload PDFs. It accepts almost any document type, but you want to get it in there somehow and let the AI chew on it and organize it wherever it goes. I'm going to just say, hey, yeah, that sounds pretty good. But here you might want to pause here, just for demonstration purposes. I'll go ahead and keep moving. But just to pause here a second would be a good idea, and make sure you get some information in here. Check to see what the AI is recommending. If you like what it's doing, then you can move it forward. So I'm going to say, it says, are there different segments? Let's just say we're looking for established D2C brands doing, let's just say 500K or more per year. All right. That's going to give it a little bit to chew on to build a nice persona. It's asking me about frustrations. Are they struggling with conversion rates? I'm going to say they are able to make sales. It's giving them a little bit of information. They can be more profitable and buy more. So give it a little bit on some pain points there and some challenges and goals and where these people hang out online. So I'm going to say that, they're in the typical places. They kind of give it something to chew on there. If you have more detailed information, you can go ahead and give it that. What's the main objection or hesitation these store owners have? Is it price? Truthfully, there's a lot of competition in this space now for Zipify. A lot of competition. They need proof that it works. All right. So social proofs. It's starting to write out a persona now. The scaling Shopify brand owner, mid-30s to late 40s, runs a D2C e-com brand on Shopify doing 500,000 per year or more. It's going to start building out what I call a pain pleasure persona. That pain pleasure persona, when you're working in marketing, your most important piece of data point is, what is the pain? What is the problem? What is the challenge that your customer is facing? So the way I had this plugin build out these personas is the way that I like to build personas, particularly when I'm feeding a persona to an AI. I want it to understand the pain, right? And so I have it build out these different quotes based on different topics connected to what I sell. And I literally give it quotes. And this kind of information right here is so useful for writing copy, creating new offers, anything. Like, when you understand the pain, your marketing gets way better, much more on message. And so you can see that this goes and builds out quite a list of pain points. And you can, ask it to tweak this or change this. I'm going to go ahead and say, looks great. And now we can see if it's going to go ahead and build my persona now, or if it's got more questions. Now you can see over here that this is a truly agentic AI. This is not a chatbot like ChatGPT or even Claude Chat, which you can see right there. This is a desktop application. You're going to have to go download Claude Desktop to use this as of the time I'm shooting this video. And it's agentic. You can see that it's created a plan here. Now, this plan is controlled by my plugin, but you'll see it use this progress bar all the time to set up a plan as to what it should do first and the second and third and fourth. And it'll just go through and knock this stuff out one at a time. It's pretty fascinating. And the more context that you have inside of your folder here, the better that AI is going to perform. You can see now it's built the persona document. I'll open that up, and it built out this very detailed persona. And you can check through this and you can see it built out these pain and pleasure quotes. Now you can think about your AI being on the same page with you when you go to write emails, ads, landing pages, or talk to it about creating new offers or new things that you want to sell. When it understands this, it's going to be extremely helpful. This persona document is key, and it's why it stores inside of that core folder. And then it asks me, can you share some writing samples? And I'm just going to say, use what you found on the website. But this is the process of building that last of the core documents, or the ones that I do in the Growth OS plugin, the capturing of the brand voice. If you have things that you've written that you want to add in here, you could copy paste. You could even screenshot things that you've written. You could get it in here as a PDF. And it doesn't have to be your, something you wrote. If you want to mimic somebody else's voice, go ahead and go grab something that you like that somebody else wrote or some other brand writes. And what it's going to do is it's going to kind of reverse engineer how that brand voice works and write a brand voice document. I'm just going to say use what you found on the website as the example of our writing. And you're going to, so now I want to kind of while it's doing that, it's going to go check the website again. Let's kick around to this section here so you can see which folder that you're rooted in by looking here at this second box. And you can see that little folder icon. And this is all of the context that this AI is considering during this task, right? So if you open a task, this is typically going to be completely empty. And as you start to work, it's either going to start to create files, go read files that are already in there. So what you'll see is everything that the AI is considering as context for whatever you've been working on. So it says Zipify writes like successful friend who already figured out this is what wants to show you the playbook. So confident, direct, energetic, sits in a sweet spot between ecom bro and serious SaaS. That actually does nail how I would describe Zipify. Not afraid to make bold claims, but always backs them up. Short, punchy headlines. So you can see it's reverse engineering the voice on that site based on going and reading the content. And now I'm going to say, yeah, that's right on. And tell it that looks good. Now, down here in the input box, there's a bunch of stuff going on down here. So this is just your regular chat input box. This is the model that you're using here inside of Claude Desktop. And here's a couple things I would say about this. Right now, Opus 4.6 is the most powerful model you can select in here. You can see that I'm using the max plan, which is $100 a month paid to Claude. And I don't ever run out of tokens at $100 a month, even using the most powerful model. Most people are going to want to operate it like a $20 a month plan, at least to get started, until they start to really realize just how powerful this tool is. And then you might want to kick up to the $100 and be glad to do it. But if you're going to test this out, you get a paid plan. Let's start you at to $20. And then what I would recommend is that you use Sonnet 4.6 and only use Opus 4.6 when you really need some extra horsepower. Because the truth is, Sonnet is a fantastic model and it can do almost everything Opus can do for far less usage. So you should be able to use Sonnet 5 times longer than you would use Opus. So one of the downsides of using an agentic AI like this is that it is using a lot of tokens that you don't ever see. It's creating plans in the background and writing things that, and just, writing, and all that costs tokens. And those tokens end up chewing through your usage pretty fast. So stay in Sonnet and you should be able to use this 5 times longer and most of the time not get throttled by Claude. But if you stay in Opus, you're probably going to get throttled after about an hour and a half of really heavy usage. It will throttle you. So you see it's writing now into phase 5. So it wrote the brand voice document now. Let's go take a look at that brand voice doc. So what I want you to understand here now is that, we started with this empty folder and then we built a core folder, which contains some very important documents. This is why I call this the quick start. We have other plugins and other trainings and things that we do that build on top of this folder like that. Now that you've got this great structure, but let's just go through what that structure is. So you've got the core folder, which contains brand voice, offers, and persona. And I'll go through these files, growth ideas, and business blueprint now. But let's go take a look at the brand voice real quick. Again, these are all created in Markdown files. So you got to get kind of used to working in Markdown when you work in Claude Cowork or Claude Code, or really even in ChatGPT. These AIs prefer to get content delivered to them or information delivered to them using Markdown. That's why I use a little tool called One Markdown here, which translates this over for me into rich text formatting so I can read it more easily. But you can see that it went through and built my voice summary here with sentence patterns, vocabulary, personality markers. And it did that by going and scanning the copy on my website and creating some hard rules and some what not to do's and so forth about my brand voice. So I'll close that out. Now let's look at the business blueprint. This starts to build as it's starting to gather information. And this is going to also help your AI a lot. And you want to check through here maybe and see, but it asked me how many people are on the team. I told it 20. I told it my key channels. It went and pulled the contact information off there. It's got the website, it's got the owner, the founder. So you can see just in a few minutes here that we've started to build out an AI that really understands this software company. And you're going to see the power of structuring your AI this way, because the next thing it builds is something that I call the growth ideas.md. So after it gets finished, going through a lot of your context, like it understands now who you sell to, what you sell, how big's this business, what problems are they solving. It's got a lot of information. It's going to come back with a bunch of ideas called the growth ideas file. So 17 ideas organized across 4 objectives. And it starts by just kind of giving you some standout ideas. And you can get busy as quickly as just say, okay, so shop rank AI as a top funnel lead magnet, first upsell in 15 minutes onboarding challenge. So it's giving you some marketing ideas for growing this business. Case study email sequence, one-click upsell to Pages cross-sell campaign, PostProfit activation campaign. So I love all these are really good ideas. And the reason it's got great ideas is because A, Claude is incredibly intelligent AI. And B, you've given it the right context now. It's got the right structure to make very sophisticated recommendations for you to work on. So that's your business, your growth ideas folder. And now that you have Growth OS installed in this folder, anytime you would say something like, give me growth ideas, it's going to use this function inside the plugin to give you a whole bunch of new growth ideas. So you can see that MD file, and it's sitting in our folder just like everything else, but building out on our actual computer. So I'm going to open the growth ideas folder file, and you can see, again, it's another markdown file, but using one markdown here, I'm able to just kind of look at this super easy and see there's all these growth ideas in here. And let's just say that I was going to pick something here. Now, the way I had this AI or this plugin organize your growth ideas was by doing it by awareness, leads, sales, and retention, right? And you can see that this one's around revenue growth. This one's around retention, for example. So what if I said, let's look at some of these lead, first upsell in 15 minutes challenge, template gallery overhaul, case study email sequence. If I copy that one and I just say to go back into Claude Cowork, it says, do you want to pick one or start working on it right now? I'll set up a project folder and we can get something real done today. So what I want you to see, the last thing I want you to see in your folder here is this workflows folder. So this also gets built out by my plugin that we've been going through today, the Growth OS Quick Start. And what it does is it builds this empty folder. And when you start to work on something, if I say, let's work on this one, I just paste that case study idea in here. And I say, let's work on this one. It's going to start working with you as a coworker, as it's called, Claude Cowork, to start to put this into action. And what you're going to find if you get into the habit of using Cowork, is that you will work inside of this tool most of the day. And as you do, the AI will start to keep track of documents and files and progress that you've made. And so when you log back into your AI, it just kind of knows what you're working on, and it'll start to build in processes and different things. So it says, which products trial should this email focus on? Say one-click upsell. I'm just going to kind of click through some of these to get this going, but it's kind of starting to help me build this project here of creating a case study email sequence. And so what I want you to see there is that the way this plugin sets up Claude Cowork is that it's now going to build a folder where you're working on this project. And you can see it did that. It built this trial case study emails folder. And any documentation that gets created around that is going to end up inside of that. So it keeps your folder really organized, and that's good for you and it's good for the AI too. So it knows where things are. The last file I'll show you in here is called the CLAUDE.md file. And I'll open that up. And this is Claude's file. I don't ever touch this file. I might tell it to go update this file if something's going goofy. If it's acting a little goofy, I might say, go check that Claude file and see if there's any problems in there. But this is Claude's instruction manual as to how your folder works, where things are. So you don't really, I definitely don't recommend you editing this document on your own. Instead, let Claude manage it. If you're seeing a problem, you want to go ahead and tell Claude, hey, there might be some problem in the Claude file. So if it starts to not know where things are or how a particular something functions, it's probably something that could be fixed in that CLAUDE.md file, something that it feels disorganized and stuff like that. So you can tell Claude to do whatever you want at this point, right? So you've now built out your offer document, your persona document, your growth ideas are there, and your folder's ready to rock and roll. And you can see that this is starting to build out this 5 email sequence. Let's say you've got to go work on something else for now. You'll open a new task and make sure you root it into your Zipify folder that has Growth OS installed, which it does, right? So there's my Zipify folder. And I can now just start working on another task. Maybe I got to work on some financials, or I got to work on some other marketing campaign. I've got to set up an email promo or set up some ads or something like that. You start working in here and it will start to keep track of that workflow in here, and it'll be referencing your persona. So if you go and ask it for ad ideas for this new promotion you're trying to run, or you're trying to increase free trials for your software company or whatever, tell the AI what you're working on. Tell it to come up with growth ideas. And it will reference across all these documents that you've created here in this Growth OS Quick Start. And that's where the power is. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, you can go download this plugin. You just go to the click.ai, hover over plugins here, and go to the Growth OS Quick Start and select your industry. If you don't see, maybe you're not a SaaS company and you're just watching this. If you don't see your industry, you can always just use this plugin here. This is for general business as well. But if you see your plugin type in here, you can use it, nonprofits, healthcare, e-commerce. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one.